Welcome to Farm Connections. I'm your host, Dan Hoffman. On today's show, I visit with Jan Joannidis about renewing the countryside's effort to promote agriculture entrepreneurs. Storyteller Joanne Lauer tells us about her childhood experience at the Winnebago County Fair. Ken Tisi talks avian flu, and Travis Trundle shares his career goals. Stay with us. Farm Connections is next.
Welcome to Farm Connections with your host, Dan Hoffman.
Brought to you in part by Absolute Energy, a locally owned facility producing 115 million gallons of ethanol every year, proudly supporting local economies in Iowa and Minnesota. Absolute Energy, adding value to the neighborhood.
Joanne Lauer from Northwood, Iowa is joining us today on Farm Connections to tell us yet another wonderful story. This one's about the fair. Joanne, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I was a farm kid. I wanted to be a town kid. Town kids could drink milk out of paper cartons. They could roller skate on sidewalks. We didn't have sidewalks or roller skates. Town kids could go barefoot wherever they wanted and never ever worry about what it was that squished up between their toes. I wanted to be a town kid, except for that one special time of year, the hot, steamy days of August and the Winnebago County Fair. There we were, the three of us Ostrander kids, barefoot, streams of sweat spilling down our cheeks to make clean spots where our freckles showed through. The fair was hard work, but we loved it. We could just imagine people in the bleachers watching as we, this year, took the blue ribbon. Maybe this year we'd get the purple, the grand champion. So we worked hard. We scrubbed our sheep. We scrubbed those Holstein calves, and we taught them how to stand just perfectly. That's called showmanship. Finally, the day of the fair came, opening day. There we were, clean t-shirts, shorts, shiny clean faces. Dad helped us load the sheep and the calves into the back of the old 47 Ford pickup. Dad, do you think we could throw in a bale of straw so that the sheep think it smells like home when they get to the fair? Behind the wheel he got. The three of us squeezed into the cab of the truck, already looking at what was in the back of the truck through that tiny little window. You see, they weren't just any animals back there. They were our pets. 4 miles north to Thompson and down that rutted dirt road into the fairgrounds, where on one side was the Ferris wheel and the tilt-a-whirl and the merry-go-round. Oh, and the delicious smells of hot dogs and Maid-Rites and fresh apple pie and in the 4-H food stand, and the proud mothers with rosy cheeks in their homemade aprons. On the other side, the animal barns. First stop, dairy barn. My brothers Jim and Don tied their calves into those spaces that said Jim Ostrander, Don Ostrander, Linden Live Wires, 4-H. And then to the sheep barn. Dad grabbed a bale of straw, cracked it over his knee to break the twine, and made a nice bed for those sheep. Now the cows I told you about belonged to my brothers Jim and Don. The sheep, they were mine. It had started when I was about 10 years old, when one day Dad said, "I'm going to stop calling you Tootsie now. You're a big girl. You need to learn some responsibility and you need money for college." Didn't know what he was going to do. He went back into the hog house and he brought out 12 little pigs. He said, "How would you like to raise these into nice big pigs?" "Yeah, Dad, gee, I would love that." I loved those little pigs, but they were the runts of the litters. And some of them had kind of crooked noses with that you call Ryanitis, so Anyway, you know how it is that farmers, how they work their pigs when they get to be about 6 months old and they weigh about 250 pounds, they sell them. My little pigs didn't grow so fast. They had birthdays. So one day when Dad was a little bit tired of me taking all that feed out of the granary, he said, "We're going to take your pigs to the Buffalo Center sale barn and sell them." And I said, "Oh no." He said, "Oh yes." And we loaded all 12 of my little pigs into the back of the truck. I didn't know what was going to happen to them, but I knew that I couldn't bring them back home again. After they were sold, I guess it was because Dad didn't want to see me cry all the way home. He said, "Joanne, look, you have all this money now. What would you like to do with it? Would you like to buy something else?" "Yeah, Dad, I would. I'd like sheep." Dad didn't like sheep very much. He kind of laughed like that, but it didn't matter. It was my decision, my money. So in the back of that truck, on the way home, there were 11 sheep. Some big, some small, some clean, some dirty. And in my lap, in the front of the truck, a tiny little black lamb. Auctioneer just gave her to me. Said, "Miss Ostrander, are you sure you're responsible enough to take care of this lamb? You're going to have to feed her several times a day with a bottle." "Oh, you bet. I can do that." I named her Daisy. Daisy's our good luck. Everyone knows that. It was this very same Daisy that was being led into the show ring by my little brother, Don. I was so proud of the two of them that I didn't even realize when someone else got the blue ribbon. And Mary Anderson got the purple. Didn't matter. Daisy got a red. I was so thrilled. I took her back to her pen, gave her a fresh pan of cool water, gave her a big hug. But you know how it is at the end of a judging day at the fair? Some voice comes that says, "All right, you 4-H'ers, take away the food and the water from your animals. Tomorrow we sell them." Dad said Daisy was my responsibility. I had to take away her food and her water. I cried all the way up the stairs to my bedroom. Didn't sleep much that night. All I could see was that picture beside my bed of me in my white fluffy sweater holding my tiny little black lamb, Daisy. Next morning, when I heard the rooster crow, I knew that Dad would already be out milking the Holsteins. I slipped into those clothes that were kind of just standing there waiting for me. And I tiptoed down the steps, ran out to the barn as fast as I could, and there sat Dad milking all those cows on a little one-legged milking stool. He didn't even look at me. Finally, he looked up. "Joanne, looks like we're going to have another one of our father-daughter talks." He finished milking and we went into the house where a girl and her dad can have breakfast, the kind of breakfast that Mom doesn't know about because she's still asleep. Chocolate chip cookies and milk. Dad looked at me, said, "Joanne, would you like to go back into the fair?" "Oh, gee, Dad, I would." 4 miles to Thompson, down that little rutted road to the fairgrounds, stopped in front of the sheep barn. Daisy was the only lamb left in her pen. I ran over, I gave her a big hug. She was as happy to see me as I was to see her. Dad looked thoughtfully at me and at Daisy, and he said, "Joanne, I think today we're going to change the rules. How would you like to pack her up and take her home?" "Oh, yes, Dad, I would. I want to take her home." You know, I'm pretty good at responsibility. I think you know that now. And you know, to make money, I can wear roller skates and one of those little short skirts, and I can sell root beer at the A&W. Thank you for letting me keep my lamb. For years after, when I traveled from Thompson and 4 miles south to our farm, I saw little black daisy lambs in every field. A town kid. I don't think I would have made such a very good one, but I certainly am proud that I was a farm kid.
Joanne, thank you for sharing.
Thank you, Dan, for allowing me to share.
You're welcome. Stay tuned for more Farm Connections.
The worst avian flu outbreak in U.S. history has wreaked havoc across the upper Midwest, with some experts estimating a negative financial impact of more than $1 billion in the states of Minnesota and Iowa alone. In addition to the direct losses to poultry producers, the economic impact of the bird flu virus is being felt by workers, communities, and consumers. Minnesota has been one of the worst hit states with the avian flu virus. In the state of Minnesota, as of late May, over 90 poultry producers have been impacted, affecting over 9 million birds that either died directly or were euthanized. The turkey industry in Minnesota was hit particularly hard, with Minnesota being the #1 turkey producing state in the nation. Our neighbors to the south in Iowa are the #1 egg-laying state in the United States, and about 25 million egg-laying hens in the state of Iowa have had to be put down due to the bird flu virus. Some experts are estimating that this could impact up to 40% of the egg-laying capacity in the state of Iowa in 2015. Poultry producers, once they have been impacted by the bird flu virus, in addition to losing the birds and production that are there, they also have to disinfect their facilities and leave the facilities sit idle for a minimum of 3 months and possibly as long as 6 months with no income. Certainly a big impact. In addition, many workers that work in poultry facilities have had their jobs affected, as have those truckers, feed suppliers, workers in food processing plants, and ultimately these workers, the financial impact has been felt in communities by this loss of income to producers and workers. Another impact has been on consumers. Egg prices rose by almost 50% or more in many locations from late April till late May, and many experts feel these higher egg prices will continue throughout much of 2015. Also, there could be increased prices in turkey and other poultry products. Most experts expect the avian flu virus to subside with warmer temperatures in late spring and early summer. However, the financial impact to producers, communities, and consumers is likely to continue. The big unknown is whether or not we will see another round of the avian flu virus in the upper Midwest this fall when temperatures cool and the migratory birds head south for the winter. This is Kent Tesey, and we'll talk to you next time.
Jan Joannidis is the Executive Director of Renewing the Countryside, and she joins me today to tell a little bit about the organization and the effort to help fund agriculture entrepreneurs. Welcome to Farm Connections, Jan.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
Well, we're glad to have you because you've got something to tell the audience about your business and how you got it started. What is it?
Well, Renewing the Countryside is a 501c3 nonprofit organization that's been around for about 12 years. I was one of the co-founders of the organization, and we really started it because we wanted to be able to, initially our focus was telling the stories of innovative, creative things that were happening in the rural areas of Minnesota.
And how's it going?
It's going great. We went from initially really focusing on stories, and so our very first project, even before we were an organization, was doing a book called Renewing the Countryside, Minnesota, where we showcased 42 different farms, businesses, community initiatives across the state that were just really finding ways to kind of give back to their communities while making a living, while taking care of the environment. And that kind of led to additional publications with other groups in other states. But then we moved on beyond telling stories and really started to kind of dive into how do we help these businesses and kind of aspiring entrepreneurs who want to be able to do this sort of thing.
So who might seek you for advice?
Well, you know, one of the areas that we found a lot of interest is we started doing farmer-buyer speed dating.
Okay.
And then we started doing farmer lunch lady speed dating. And so our audience on both those sides was that we were talking to farmers who were growing fruits and vegetables, or, you know, nuts, grains that could feed into restaurants or institutions, but they really didn't know how to get there. They didn't know, do I go and just knock on the door of every restaurant in my community? And they just didn't really know where to start. And at the same time, we were talking to restaurants and schools who said, well, we'd really love to get this product, but what do we do? Do we just pick up the Minnesota Grown Guide and start dialing, you know, every number? So we had heard about this being done in the Pacific Northwest, and so we thought, well, we can take that idea and do it here. And so we started having these sessions where we would bring together, we would invite both kind of farmers interested into selling to these buyers, and we'd bring the buyers. We do a little education on, if you're a farmer and you want to sell to a restaurant, this is what you need to know. And if you're a restaurant and you're going to buy from a farmer, maybe it's good to know that, you know, things are seasonal and you can't get strawberries in the middle of winter from a Minnesota farmer unless they're frozen. And then we actually have kind of a very speed dating sort of model where we give people, we have them talk to each other for 5 minutes, ring a bell, and have them talk to the next person. And that's been a really successful program of ours.
Very dynamic.
It is,
So
and people love it, yeah.
You're a matchmaker.
I'm a matchmaker, yes, that's a lot of what we do.
Can you give me an example of something that really worked well in that process? A case study, if you will.
Well, you know, I think one of our favorite case studies is that, and we've done these across the state, but we did one up in, I think it was at the Arboretum that we did it. And so it was, you know, just outside of the edge of the Twin Cities. And we called one of the farmers that we worked with and we said, you know, he's like, well, why should I come to this? And we said, well, you know, this is a really good opportunity to meet these people, see if it's a market, you know, if it's something you're interested in. He was a little skeptical, but he came, and he's ended up being a supplier to the Hopkins School District, and they are kind of like the poster, Hopkins and Greg Reynolds are the poster children for this kind of farm to school efforts throughout the state. And we have other good examples too, but that was one of them that came out of that.
Why is that important to connect those people and do those things with the food supply?
Well, I think one of the issues is, you know, our commodity agricultural systems are really set up very well. There's been a lot of effort and time and thought into how to make those work, and so they're very efficient, and the markets are set up. But with some of these more direct markets, you know, outside of farmers markets, there really haven't been good pathways. And so what it means is that you have these small business people, the farmers, who don't have a marketing team and an R&D team, and you know, they tend to be themselves, maybe have a few employees, maybe have, you know, a number of employees during the top season, but they just don't have that. The systems aren't in place. So it's become really important to try and make it more efficient for them so that they can actually, you know, make a living doing what they're doing.
And speaking of making a living, not only providing for that family, but let's say a farm family is local or in Minnesota and is gaining their livelihood from Minnesota businesses. What does that do for the community that the farmer lives in?
I think that that's critical, and that's one of the things, we end up working quite a bit with farmers, but I think one of the things that we're very interested in is how do you keep, smaller communities vibrant, and you have to have people there. So while I don't personally have a problem with large farms, if we just have 2 or 3 owners in a county of all of the farmland, that also means you aren't going to have those farm families, and so then you don't have schools, you don't have church, you need those people to go to those places to buy at the local, the local hardware store, whatever it is, that it really does have a ripple effect back into the economy. And we also have found that these, kind of these smaller farmers also tend to be really civically engaged and engaged in their communities.
And that's important.
That is very important, yes.
And I think the work you're doing would take a lot of time and effort, am I correct?
It does, it does. And we're a very small organization, but how we've gotten around that is that we partner with dozens and dozens of organizations, and so we really have often played the role of either being a catalyst, or if somebody else is a catalyst, kind of joining in and helping to work on those efforts. So whenever we do an event, whether it's one of those farmer buyer events, or we've been doing some women caring for the land events, which are really focused on women farmland owners who aren't operators, in those cases we work with the Soil and Water District, and we work with Extension, and we work with the local watershed partnerships, and we work with the University of Minnesota Regional Sustainable Development Partnership. So, but kind of by partnering, we're able to have a larger reach, and it makes for easier work.
And leveraging your talents and time.
Yes, yeah.
How does someone find out more?
Well, we have a website. It's called renewingthecountryside.org, and in southern Minnesota in particular, we are part of the Feast Local Food Network, and that is an initiative that was really seeded by the Southern Minnesota Initiative Foundation, but it's a network of, there are probably 80 to 100 people involved, some representing organizations, some individuals who are really interested in kind of growing the local foods economy in Minnesota. And we've really taken that opportunity to do a couple of things. One, we have this, and you really have to come, we have this Feast Local Foods Festival and Marketplace in Rochester. This will be our 2nd year, where we bring the farm and food entrepreneurs together for a day to let people kind of taste and buy kind of the local things. It's kind of a farmer's market on steroids, maybe.
Well, thank you for the important work you do, Jan. Keep us posted.
All right, thank you so much.
And thanks for joining us.
All right.
Stay with us. Ag 101 is next.
Exploring career opportunities in agriculture. Ag 101. Funding for Ag 101 provided by the AgStar Fund for Rural America.
We're here with Travis Trendle from Lanesboro FFA, which is also my home FFA chapter. And Travis, we're so excited to have you here.
Yes, very nice to be here.
Thank you. So let's learn a little bit about your career aspirations.
Okay.
I believe you're a senior in high school.
Yep.
So where would you like to go to school, and what major are you going to major in?
I'm currently a senior at Lanesboro High School, and I will be attending Iowa State University in the fall to major in agricultural engineering.
Great, ag engineering. So what excited you about ag engineering, and how did you come to that decision of having that as a career path?
I guess growing up on a 200-cow dairy farm, I really got interested in agriculture from a young age. And then once I joined the FFA organization, that passion kind of grew for me. And then also in high school, I learned that I really liked the maths and sciences. So kind of putting those two together is where why I really wanted to go down that road of agricultural engineering.
Wonderful. Well, with ag engineering, there's all kinds of things that you can do. There's a lot of specialization and emphasis areas. For example, you could go into, designing equipment for implements and John Deere or Case IH. You can go into solving natural resources or environmental science issues with ag engineering. You can also go into many of the practicum research areas of ag engineering. There are the future of ag engineering. We're going to need a lot of people to help solve today's issues as well as the future issues with ag and many of the items that are on the surface right now. And so engineering with your mathematics background will definitely give you that foresight to be a successful person in an agricultural career in the future.
Yeah. I'm really looking forward to it.
Great. So now let's learn a little bit more about your FFA experience. So now, do you have an an SAE, or have you been in a CDE, a career development event?
My SAE is working on my family's dairy farm.
Okay.
I also this past summer did a little bit more of a project. I raised 9 bull calves over the summer and raised
Wonderful.
them to about 500-600 pounds and then sold them in the fall.
Great. So that's been your SAE experience. Excellent. So now, were you in dairy judging by any chance?
I was in dairy judging. Our team started fairly early on in 8th grade.
Okay.
And it would have been 3 state conventions ago, we were able to place first. And we moved on to national convention where we placed second in that fall. So.
Travis, you mentioned that you'd like to major in agricultural engineering. What type of classes have you taken, and also do you foresee yourself taking at Iowa State that would be in ag engineering?
In high school, some of the classes that I've done more on to prepare myself for the engineering side include, like this past year, I've been working on taking calculus and physics, and I took chemistry last year. On the agriculture side, I've also had the opportunity to take several classes with that. This past year, I took animal science in the fall, which is actually a college credit course through the University of Minnesota. And right now, I'm currently in horticulture, and we are working out in our greenhouse with growing all those plants.
So now, with agricultural as a future career choice of yours, you know, what excites you the most? Like, if you could have a magic wand and think about how you're going to make a difference in the ag world and actually the world in general, you know, what would that look like? And what do you feel when you're done with that degree you could be doing?
I feel like really working just in agriculture and being able to work with feeding the growing population of the world and making sure that everybody has a quality, safe product is really something that is important to me and that I want to be involved in the future.
So it's been a pleasure working with you and getting to know you. Congratulations,
nice
Travis, on your career.
Thank you.
Thank you.